Welcome back to the channel, guys. So I've got a client case study video for you today. I'm going to be running you over the exact approach that I've taken with one of my clients called Nelson, who is 35. He is a senior manager at a really large company based in New York in the social enterprise space. Now, the approach that I've taken with Nelson, we've worked together for over 2.5 years now. I think it's actually 30 months. Is a little bit different to some of the other clients that I work with. And the reason for that is, as I've written here, he's got a very stressful career and he's also very, very social too. And those two things combined can make getting results a little bit difficult. But you know, my ethos as a coach and what we do as a coaching team is we always want to understand the client. We want to understand what they like doing in their life. And we also want to understand their goal and help them move towards that. You know, if I tell him that he can't socialize and that he's got to train every single day in the gym, he's not going to like that. He's not going to get good results. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Joe. I run an online coaching company called Athletic Aesthetic. We work with career-driven men, usually between the ages of 30 and 50. And most of the time we are helping them optimize their health, drop body fat and build muscle. We also have some clients as well that are working towards kind of events like half marathons, marathons and things like that. But Nelson is very much body composition focused. So his goal was to drop body fat, build muscle and build an amazing physique overall. So as I said before, super high stress job. He's up early in the morning. He's working late sometimes. We've got occasional travel for work, but to be honest, he's usually traveling more for leisure, kind of like weekends away with his group of friends, with his family as well. Fair to say there's a little bit of alcohol that gets involved as well. And I'm going to be running you over in this case study the push-pull method that we use with Nelson to help him get really, really good results. But the key take-homes here, high stress, and he's super social as well. So if you're someone that is considering working with a personal trainer and a coach, and you think that you've got to live a restrictive life, then I'm here to show you that you don't have to do that. And I will have already inserted the photo of Nelson's transformation as well. Okay, so first we have training. Now, if you're looking to improve your body composition, drop body fat, build muscle, training and nutrition are equally as important, but you could have the most optimized nutrition plan. If you're not training properly in the gym and you're not training hard enough, you're not progressively overloading, then you're not going to build that physique that everyone wants that is leaner and has more muscle. So with Nelson, we had him doing 3 to 4 sessions per week. His training split, upper body, lower body, push, posterior. I've mentioned that split before in other videos that I have centered around training. If you want more detail on actual training programs, definitely watch those videos. But just to kind of summarize there, this is a great split for targeting each major muscle group twice a week, which is going to lead to faster results versus something like chest day, back day, leg day, etc. Now, you might be wondering, like, what do you mean by 3 to 4 per week? But going back to what I was saying about this push-pull method, because Nelson's routine and schedule changes quite a lot with his travel and with his work, and we're checking in every single week and communicating on WhatsApp, he'll just be honest with me and say, look, Joe, next week I am absolutely slammed. I do not think I'm going to be able to get into the gym 4 times a week. So what we do on those weeks is we just say, okay, that's fine. Let's just focus on getting 3 quality sessions in. The most important thing with the training split and the rotation is that he follows that order. So let's say, for example, one week he did upper lower push, he missed posterior, he would just carry this on into the next week. So he's still training that frequency, and realistically he's probably getting on average 4 sessions in over 8 days, which is absolutely fine. And the reason that I've taken this approach with Nelson is because I learned that early on when I started coaching him, if he had a ridiculously busy week and I said do 4 and he missed it, he kind of saw that as a failure. And I think a lot of high performers that we work with, they obviously want to follow everything that we're giving them in the program in terms of training, nutrition, steps, cardio. They want to follow it to an absolute T. And sometimes when they miss one component of that, everything else starts to fall down. So with Nelson, I took a different approach. I just kind of took the pressure off him a little bit, allowed him to do 3 a week, and he has not missed a session when we've used that approach over the last 6 months. And visually, he's looking better than ever. Like, he's made more progress and he's more consistent. So we don't use that approach for everyone, but it's worked really, really well with Nelson. And that just comes down to having a good relationship with the client, like honest communication. You know, I think there's some people that are just a little bit lazy and they need to be pushed harder, but I genuinely know with Nelson that if he tells me he has a ridiculously busy week, I believe him, and that approach works really well. Another area that we work on really closely with Nelson, and that is something that he mentioned on our first call, because he was actually considering going with a face-to-face personal trainer, is optimizing his form in the gym. So I give him KPIs. I try and encourage him to send me over at least 2 to 3 form clips a week of him training. And there's 2 reasons for that. He was at the start of his journey a little bit scared to increase the weight. He didn't know when to do it, and he felt that if he increased the weight, he was going to get injured. So with me assessing his form weekly, obviously optimizing his actual form and making sure he's doing the movement properly, feeling it in the right muscle groups, I've actually just given him the confidence to increase the weight. And with him, I just said, if you increase the weight by 5 pounds, it's not going to lead to an injury, provided that obviously the form and the tempo is intact. So that's something that we do frequently. Even 2.5 years in, we're still reviewing his technique and optimizing things from there. And going back to what I was saying before, a lot of people think, I need to get a personal trainer. If you need someone to motivate you to go to the gym, then 100% go and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars a month on a personal trainer. But if you're looking for a bit more advice on your form and you want to be held accountable across training and nutrition, then a health and performance program is going to be better for you. Training intensity as well, I kind of mentioned that before. A lot of people are just blissfully unaware of how hard you actually need to train in the gym to see results. The people that we work with, they're not new to the gym. Nelson had trained for years before coming on board with me, albeit not as consistently and not to the same intensity. But when you have a bit of experience, you need to train harder to get good results. I'm 15 years deep into my training journey now. I have to train at a very high intensity to see improvements in my physique. So there's 2 reasons that we assessed his form. It was to build his confidence so he could confidently progressively overload, and also to make sure that he was actually training hard enough to get the right results. So 3 to 4 sessions a week. I would say with this push-pull approach, he probably does 2 weeks on 4 sessions a week and probably 2 on 3, and it works really, really well. So we'll go on to nutrition next. So next we have nutrition. As I said before, training is going to help you build the physique, but if you're not following the right nutritional approach for you, whether that is a meal plan, whether it's a more flexible calorie and macro approach, you're not going to get the results that you want. You need to be able to recover from the training. Obviously sleep and overall recovery has a huge impact on that as well, but nutrition is going to be the main driver alongside sleep for recovery. So I'm not going to go into the actual numbers that we use for Nelson in terms of macros, because that's personalized to him based off his height, his activity levels, and his weight and things like that. But we followed a flexible macro approach. The reason for that, because Nelson is social and he travels occasionally, it wouldn't be sustainable for him to follow a meal plan. For some clients that are based in one city, like all of the time, we do sometimes recommend meal plans, but I find for the more social guys that we work with, like Nelson, an ability to be able to kind of build your own meal plan, adapt on the go, have different foods when you go through airports, track when you're eating out is a better way to do it, and that's what I do personally. So the most important thing with Nelson was that he committed to tracking all of his nutrition to provide me with the data so that I can decide whether to make any changes to his plan. So he had a personalized protein target, which is dependent on his body weight. Generally, for most males who are looking to build muscle, and even if they're cutting down and trying to retain muscle, 2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. An essential amount of fats in the diet, usually between 60 to 75 grams, depending on the client and their weight and things like that. And the rest of the calories come from the carbohydrates, which was super important to drive the training performance in the gym. I do find a lot of guys, for some reason in the US, they tend to go low carb even when they're trying to build muscle, which really doesn't make any sense. So that's a key shift that we made straight away with Nelson, and immediately his physique responded really well to that. At the moment, we've got Nelson in a small calorie surplus because his goal is to build muscle, but we did go through an initial fat loss phase of him to strip off body fat first, to put him in a good position to then build muscle. And I will have had the transformation up in the left-hand corner, but you can see that even when he's building muscle now, he is far leaner than he was when he came on board before his fat loss phase. You want to be able to stay lean whilst building muscle. We're not, a coaching company that likes to drive clients' body fat percentage up when they're trying to build muscle, just because usually most of the men that we work with, they want to look great year round. They want to feel confident when they're going on these trips throughout the year. Eating out was a key feature with Nelson. I'd say he does like to travel quite a bit. So when he is away on the weekends, he is eating out probably 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times. So education around nutrition alongside showing him how to track from a calorie and a macro point of view when he's on the go has been really, really key to his success. So, earlier on in his journey when he used to go to restaurants, he would send me over the menu, I'd recommend foods, I'd then test him on how good he was at tracking those foods, and he's built up the ability over time to basically go into any restaurant in any city and know what to eat, know what would be a good choice, and also know how to track it as well and provide me with that data. Meal prep is something that he does utilize throughout the week just simply because he's so busy. So he follows a meal structure of usually 3 larger meals per day and then a protein shake and a snack. And usually 2 of those meals are from a meal prep company in New York, simply just to save him time. And if you actually look into them and research them, they're usually pretty cost effective as well. So that's the approach that we're taking with Nelson, a more flexible calorie and macro approach, educating him around nutrition so he can make good decisions when he eats out, whether that is literally just throughout the week or when he's away on these weekends away on holidays. And he does utilize meal prep as well. I would say if you've got the financial resources to do that, it's a really worthwhile investment because it means that you can focus just more on work or your business or whatever it is. And lastly, another component that has been hugely important for Nelson getting great results with myself and the team is communication. And we break it into kind of 3 parts, I guess. I think, I do speak to a lot of people that are considering, do I go with a personal trainer? Do I go with an online health and performance coach, which is what I would class myself as? And as I mentioned before, the difference between a personal trainer is to literally motivate you to going to the gym. You're essentially paying someone to count your reps in the gym and tweak your form a little bit. Whereas with what we do, we obviously don't provide 24/7 support, but we are on hand through WhatsApp calls and check-ins to support the clients as much as they need. And even 2.5 years into me working with Nelson, we still communicate 2 to 3 times a week on WhatsApp. I encourage clients to reach out to me whenever they have questions, whether that's a message, whether that's a voice note. I always say, there's no silly questions. The better relationship that I can build with a client, they're always going to get a better result because they feel more supported. We do one-to-one calls. I try to get a call with each client a minimum of once a month, but if clients feel like they need a little bit more support, happy to jump on there. And then lastly, check-in. So that is, you can consider it the one formal touch point that we require from every single client in the program. And that is where they update all their data. We will send them a personalized video over reviewing everything in terms of how their week has been, things they've been struggling with, things that have gone really well. We're quite frequently making changes to their plans in terms of nutrition targets, or whether it's adjusting their training for travel, hotel gyms, and things like that. And we explain why we've done that. And with these 3 methods here, we have a really nice cadence of communication throughout the week with all the clients. And that's to help improve their knowledge. But for most people, it's just to hold them accountable. It's so easy for clients like Nelson who are so busy to just slip off and drop the standard when they're super busy and skip a session and things like that. But if they're frequently communicating with me and the team, it helps them stay on track. And the most important thing to getting really good results is consistency, and communication really, really helps with that. So if you found this video useful and you are considering coaching, feel free to fill out the Typeform link below, which is an application form to the coaching. I will be in touch to arrange a one-to-one consultation call where we will go over your goals, discuss where you're falling down right now, and see if you'd be a good fit for the program.